this year we've been celebrating the 20th anniversary of the National Council for Higher Education.
As service providers in the regulatory line, what are your achievements 20 years down the road in as far as streamlining the sector is concerned?
Well, to begin with, we established a secretariat. The secretariat started with 4 members of staff, but now we have 56 members of staff. We established structures. We now have directorates, departments, and units, and that has made our regulatory work better, streamlined. We also instituted a higher education quality assurance framework, and that's the document that guides the way institutions are assessed, the way programs are assessed, and also the same framework is used by the institutions to assess themselves. We have also, among other things, digitalized the higher education sector system. Now, way back in 2019, in August, we issued minimum standards for running ODEL programs. That is of using the ODEL system or of delivery of higher education. But before it was properly implemented, the pandemic came in, and that pandemic brought another angle in higher education. There were lockdowns and institutions were locked down. So what we did was to quickly develop guidelines for emergency, what we called emergency ODEL system, and that enabled institutions to continue teaching in these institutions. Another aspect of, but of course, that was to serve the purpose of lockdowns. But after the lockdowns, now the institutions are required to use those standards that we had issued in August of 2019 to ensure that they develop programs that are supposed to be delivered using the ODEL system. And we have already upgraded some of such programs. And digitization has also involved us developing a platform for exhibitions. That was also done during the lockdowns, because we couldn't have the usual exhibitions. So we had to devise a system, and we developed a platform. It is the first ever in this country to be used to have exhibitions, and it enabled us to continue with exhibitions and conferences during the lockdown.
With your existence as the National Council for Higher Education, is it that you have made it so easy for universities to start up, or you have made it so difficult with the standards? Why do we see so many universities mushrooming, and what do you make of it? First of all, as a professor yourself and somebody in this institution.
Well, we are also concerned about the mushrooming of institutions, but the current law does not empower us to say no to an institution. To promoters, if they come forward and say they want to start a university or a tertiary institution, and they have the requirements, because we do go and inspect to see that they have the requirements, they have the human resource, before we can say, okay, go ahead. Initially, they are given what we call an interim authority to start a university, and during that period, they are supposed only to prepare for starting. They are not supposed to enroll or teach. And when they are ready to apply for a provisional license, they do. and then we send teams to verify what they said they have.
Why do we see universities start? Because they start with your permission. Why do we see them start, and on the way of their operation, you come in and stop them? One would expect that by the time you allowed them to open, you had noticed that they had what it took to start operations. What goes wrong there?
Yeah, when we allow them, we have seen what it takes. But as time goes on, some of them are not able to sustain those standards. That is one. Two, some of them take on more than what they were allowed to take on. So they end up, because that means those resources were meant for certain programs and for a certain number of students. But once they overdo the recruitment of students and then bring in many programs, some of them have gone to the extent of teaching unaccredited programs to the disadvantage of the students. Because if a program is not accredited, we cannot recognize the qualifications.
You bring in the issue of accredited programs. There was an excitement in town here about accreditation of programs. First of all, let me start with the tail end. How did you conclude it as the sector players with you at the helm as National Council? Where did it end?
Well, we concluded, first of all, we involved the stakeholders, the tertiary institutions, the universities, and other stakeholders. And we, after engaging them, we came to an understanding of how we should move forward. And National Council for Education gave institutions that had programs that were not accredited and had not been, not accredited, which had not been reviewed. They may have been accredited, but they are given a certain period. So those programs are supposed to be submitted by the 30th of November. And after that, they will not be allowed to teach those programs.
So that's how you concluded it. But how did it come about? How did we end up with people graduating with courses that are not?
No, I think, how did we end there? We ended, when you say how did we end there, what do you mean?
So like, how did people end up doing courses that you had not accredited as National Council for Higher Education?
Those ones which you are saying, let me put it this way.
Yes.
In every situation, there are entities that will not be compliant. So there are two categories of, we are talking about there. There are those who had never submitted programs for accreditation. But the debate at that time started with programs that had been accredited, but had gone beyond the period for which they were given before they reviewed the programs for resubmission. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor. Now, during that time, you see, when we get an opportunity to talk to you, it is an opportunity to clear the air on many issues. During that time, many people in the university business sector, students, professors, we give them a lot of money. They take money from every student every year. Throw some light about that. How much money does National Council receive from every university student? First of all, is it true?
Well, it is true, and there is an instrument to that effect. Every student is supposed to pay 20,000 a year. Yeah, so it's true, but that was levied long time ago, and as you know, 20,000 shillings does not amount so much. In fact, at most we collect around 3 million. Yeah. And that's not much. Yes.
Now, the other thing, you said you're also concerned about the mushrooming. To me, I think it will kill the quality of and the value of university education. What can we do about it as a country?
Fortunately, we will empower National Council for Education to say no. But as long as the law doesn't allow us, and we say no to promoters who have what it takes to start a university, we'll be taken to court. You know these days.
Do you only handle universities or even these other institutions?
No, we handle universities, we handle other tertiary institutions, other degree awarding institutions. Those are, they are not universities, but they are allowed to offer degree programs. Then we have other tertiary institutions. Those are the ones which offer diplomas.
This is my second last one, Dr. Professor. We normally have brothers and sisters that go to parliament. It is you people who weigh their academic qualifications and say, this is good to go, this is not good to go. How come people whose papers you have weighed and approved, again, get to be sieved and they are not worth it after some time? What goes wrong in your processes?
No, first of all, it's not, we don't deal with all qualifications. If somebody has got a degree or a diploma from a recognized institution, we don't have to touch that one. The law allows them to just submit. Yes. But if they don't have a diploma or a degree, then the papers they have to be submitted to us for us to equate those qualifications to see whether they are equivalent to A level. You know, A level is what permits these people to, yes. Or if they obtain qualifications from outside the country, they bring them and we equate them. But there are many who don't have to come to us because they go to the Electoral Commission and present a degree certificate and a diploma. Yeah.
20 years gone. What plans are there as we start another kind of 10 or 20 years? What plans do you have after the 20 years now?
One is to our plans within the planning period, this planning period, and beyond, is one to digitalize, continue digitalizing higher education in the country. Two, to review the various instruments and regulations to incorporate new developments and trends. Three, as you know, government is emphasizing science. And right now, science programs constitute 37% of all the programs. So we are trying to prioritize sciences with a view to balancing those. Those are some of the things that we...
Okay, about sciences, how easy is it to succeed with sciences here at the top when the foundation is a little weak? How much is being done to strengthen the foundation for sciences so that at the top it becomes something really that can flourish?
I believe I'm not the right person to answer that question.
What would be your last message as you celebrate this day to the Ugandan watching you on behalf of the National Council?
Well, my last message to the Ugandans is that before a parent before a student enrolls in an institution, two, they should check if the program they would like to offer is accredited. Short of that, they may invest money and time, and their qualifications will not be recognized. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That is Professor Mary Okwakol. She's the Executive Director of the National Council for Higher Education. And like I said at the beginning, we are here to see, to witness as they celebrate 20 years of existence. And that's the event here at Kololo Independence Grounds. And we are expecting His Excellency the President, who is going to be the chief guest, together with Mama Janet Museveni. I want to talk to the Honorable Nue Amanya Mushega. He is a former Minister for Education and he's also now in the Education Review Commission. We want to have a word with him briefly before we continue as we wait for His Excellency the President. Tuli kololo wano tukutusako buterevu omukolo gwa akakiiko k'eggwanga akavunaanyizibwa ku matendekero ka waggulu kajaguza emyaka 2 olunaku lw'olwaleero luno okuva lwe katandikibwa mu 2021 bajaguza emyaka 20. So tugezaako okutegeera embeera nga bwebadde gwe tubadde twogera naye ye Professor Okakol akulira akakiiko ako nga atunnyonnyodde bingi ebikwatagana n'akakiiko ako. Would love to talk to Honorable Amanya Mushega. He is a senior in the education sector and have a word with him briefly. He will give us a chance to say something. He's now the head of the Educational Review Commission, and we would love to hear from him to see what he thinks about the education sector in this country. Like you can all tell, we have a number of universities, over 50 now, and the Professor Okwakol says these are mushrooming and they all, but the law does not stop anyone from start universities, and it's not in their power to stop anyone. But what does this mean about the sector? What does this say to those of us that consume the education, and who anyway has the powers to limit exactly what they have to give as the universities when they are started? All that we need to get to hear and understand to see to it that we get the quality of the education sector. Honorable, good morning, sir. We would love to talk to you briefly as UBC TV for a minute. Just a comment about the education sector, Honorable.
Yes. The president is coming. After me, come and interview.
Okay, Honorable Mushega has turned down our request for a chat, but like I said, we are at Kololo Independence Grounds. We wanted to talk to him as a senior man in the education sector about how he sees the sector currently, but he has turned down the request and he says he didn't know he was to make an interview here at Kololo Independence Grounds. Yes, gwatulabira ku UBC TV tuli Kololo wano tukutusako butereevu omukolo ogw'akakiiko k'eggwanga ak'amatendekero aga waggulu nga kajaguza okuweza emyaka 20 bweddu nga kaweereza eggwanga lino. National Council for Higher Education, their role is to regulate the start, management and operation of universities and tertiary institutions in Uganda. They give the charters, they decide who starts a university, and they regulate and streamline how all this is done. At this point, we expect His Excellency the President to come in and he will grace the event with Mama Janety, the Minister for Education and Sports. We thank you so much for watching. Keep it UBC TV. We'll give you the whole event live here at Kololo Independence. I was mentioning a number of the different roles of the National Council for Higher Education. We have members of parliament. As they stand to take on these positions, it is the National Council for Higher Education that does the weighing of their academic qualifications to ascertain whether they measure to what the law determines that should be the requirement for anyone to qualify to go into parliament or any oppositions. This is the commission. We have registration of universities and tertiary institutions. That is their duty. We have checking and supervising of all these institutions. You remember a few days ago, like we were talking with Professor Okakol, we talked about the accreditation of courses, and she says this was an issue, but they managed to handle the whole issue. Good morning, madam.
Morning to you.
Good morning. What do you make of this day, 20 years of the National Council for Higher Education?
This is a very important day because previously there was no such a body to bring us together as universities and other tertiary institutions group So we are very happy that this has been able to grow. I'm speaking both as a client because I'm a vice chancellor of Kabale University,
Wow.
but also I'm vice chairperson of the governing council of this body. So I'm from both sides and I'm happy that this has happened. So I can say we have benefited as institutions. We get a lot of guidance from the council in terms of quality assurance, in terms of guidance about, many indicators of how we should run universities. And also from the council itself, it has had this interaction with institutions where the relationship is more of guidance than, than policing. So we are happy that the foundation has been done. And I want to recognize the people who started this institution. They were very good to us. I've been in this field for a long time, so I know.
You are Professor?
Professor Joy Kwesiga, Vice Chancellor of Kabale
University.
Yes.
Now, I was talking to Professor Okwakol,
Yes.
and we talked about the mushrooming of universities.
Yes.
She says they are also concerned, but the law does not give them the powers to stop anyone.
Yes.
In your view, what do you make of the mushrooming? Yes, we need many of them, but when it becomes a mushrooming, that is a notion that causes concern. What do you think?
I think the issue is to control the quality, and the institutions themselves, if they are working towards achieving what a university should be, then the universities can work if there are many or not. So it depends on what type of university and what measures you have in place. But I can tell you it is very expensive. Kabale University started as a private university. The people of Kigezi got together and said we needed university in this region.
Yes.
But it became very hard, so they requested the government of Uganda to take it over. So since 2016, we are a public university.
Wow.
And it's not easy because of the inputs that you require. But it's worthwhile because, like us, we are now a regional university, government regional university for the Kigezi region. So depending on how we handle this and how we attend to quality, I think once we are there, we can manage. But the people are saying yes, I think with the control and specialization, you can create several universities rather than limit them.
Professor Okwakol said, I asked her, 20 years, what are the plans for the future? They are looking at sciences. Is this the story in Kabale as well, as we wind up because the president is coming in?
Yes, Kabale was created as a government institution focused on science, and that's what we do. We have a medical school, we have engineering school, we have science, basic sciences, agriculture, and we are a smaller institution. We are still young, growing up, but we are focusing on sciences. Not forgetting that we need other areas. We focus on languages because we connect French-speaking and English-speaking units of the Great Lakes region. So definitely we are science-oriented.
Thank you so much, Professor Kwesiga.
Yes, thank you.
We wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes, that is Professor Kwesiga. She's the Vice Chancellor, Kabale University. At least she gave us an opportunity to say a word. As you can see on your screen, His Excellency the President has arrived, and that means at least she gave us an opportunity to say a word. As you can see on your screen, His Excellency the President has arrived, and that means
okay, it is UBC Radio, and we are bringing on to you an event live, 20th anniversary celebrations. 20th anniversary celebrations. for the National Council for Higher Education. We shall be heading back to Kololo, but we left when the president had just arrived. We shall be heading back there, of course, for more action. The theme is 20 years of National Council for Higher Education, transforming higher education in Uganda. In case just tuning in, we earlier talked about, of course, what a National Council for Higher Education is. Okay, I think we are now ready to head back. Okay. But thank you for being a part of, this arrangement. Okay, as we plan on going back to Kololo, I now want to talk to you about the functions of the National Council under the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act 2001, as amended. Now they have to, or it has to implement the objectives of this act. The National Council for Higher Education. Okay. Yes, the National Council of Higher Education has to promote and develop the processing and dissemination of information on higher education for the benefit of the people. The National Council of Higher Education has to advise the minister on the establishment and accreditation of public and private institutions of higher education. It has to receive, consider, and process applications for the establishment and accreditation of public and private tertiary institutions, and of course other degree awarding institutions and private universities, and also the accreditation of the academic and professional programs of those institutions in consultation with the professional associations and regulatory, bodies. The National Council of Higher Education has to register all institutions of higher education established under the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act. The National Council for Higher Education has to receive and investigate complaints relating to institutions of higher education and take appropriate action. Today, the National Council of Higher Education is celebrating 20 years. And the event is happening at Kololo Independence Grounds. We shall, head back there later on. But right now, we are still looking at the functions of the National Council under the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act 2001 as amended. Now, the National Council of Higher Education is to monitor, evaluate, and regulate institutions of higher learning in cooperation with the relevant, government departments, private sector, all the different institutions of higher education, to evaluate the overall national manpower requirement and recommend solutions to the requirements. The National Council for Higher Education is to ensure minimum standards for courses of study and equating of degrees, diplomas, and certificates awarded by the different public and private institutions of higher learning. The National Council for Higher Education is to set and coordinate national standards for admission of students to the different institutions of higher education, to to require and ensure that all universities, whether private or public, adhere to minimum criteria set by the National Council for admission, to undergraduate and higher degree programs. Another function of the National Council for Higher Education is to determine the equivalence of all types of academic and professional qualifications of degrees, diplomas, and certificates obtained elsewhere with those awarded by Uganda institutions of higher education for recognition in Uganda. The National Council for Higher Education has to certify that an institution of higher education has adequate and accessible physical structures and staff for the courses to be offered by it. The National Council for Higher Education has to promote national interests in courses of study and professional qualifications among the different types of institutions of higher education. The National Council for Higher Education has to ensure that institutions of higher education provide adequate facilities and opportunities for career guidance and counseling. The National Council for Higher Education has to collect, examine, and publish information relating to the different institutions of higher learning. The National Council for Higher Education has to generally advise the government on policy and other matters relating to institutions of higher education. And also, the National Council for Higher Education has to perform any other function incidental to the objects of this act or relating to higher education in Uganda, or that may be, conferred upon it by the minister or any other law. So those are some of the functions of the National Council under the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act 2001 as amended. And if time allows, we shall also look into this act. But I now want to make a quick reminder real quick. The National Council for Higher Education was established as the regulator of higher education to implement the Universities and Other Tertiary Institutions Act of Parliament, UOTIA 2001. Now, by the provisions of the Act, National Council for Higher Education is mandated to guide the establishment of institutions of higher learning, as well as to ensure the delivery of quality and relevant education to all qualified persons, So, that is the National Council for Higher Education for you. And I had also earlier, said that they have a mission. The National Council for Higher Education has a mission, and its mission is to regulate higher education through setting standards to ensure the provision of relevant quality higher education in this country, Uganda. To regulate higher education through setting standards to ensure the provision of relevant quality higher education in this country. And its vision is a Uganda with accessible, quality, and transformative higher education. That is the National Council for Higher Education, which is, of course, celebrating 20 years serving this country. So today we are having the Grand National Council for Higher Education 20th anniversary celebrations. And the theme is 20 years of National Council for Higher Education, transforming higher education in Uganda. and the guest of honor has already arrived at the venue. That is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the president of this country. So we will take you back to Kololo. Well, in a bit, okay? But thank you so much for being a part of, this arrangement. My name is Khan Sultan, the Blockbuster MC. I am here to make sure that you don't miss a thing. All right, I will go in for a breather, and when I get back, of course, I will be able to give you some more. Good afternoon.
As Uganda works towards Vision 2040, UBC Radio is dedicated to the development of Uganda. Join us every day for transformative programs in English, Swahili, and Luo. This is UBC Radio.
It's the Bundesliga, German football league at its best.
They've got the support of the crowd right behind them even before the game starts.
Tune in to UBC Radio every Saturday for the live game commentary, analysis and prediction.
Sané's gone from distance. Oh, Sané!
The Bundesliga, brought to you by Uganda Broadcasting Corporation in partnership with Deutsche Welle.
What a finish! Timo Hubers with a Bundesliga brace.